不是货不对版，知道吗？他直接
It's no longer just a mismatch between what was advertised and what was delivered. This is outright fraud. And you think that's outrageous enough? There's something even worse. The data has been directly tampered with by the computer manufacturers themselves. In other words, when customers buy these laptops, they can't detect the issue under normal use. Many testing tools can't identify it either. The results all show a high-spec processor. Recently, reports of widespread falsification involving laptops in China have spread both domestically and internationally. Complaint videos criticizing official data tampering and systemic fraud have flooded social media platforms like Douyin.
我勒个豆，真是忍不了了！综合 IT 之家和
Well,
快科技
now
的消息
things have really blown up in the laptop community. You'd better check your laptop to see if you've been affected. Following one brand, another has now been exposed for using a Ryzen 5 550U processor disguised as a 743U, using exactly the same method. Even more outrageous, all the models involved were manufactured by a company in Shenzhen. According to industry responsibility standards, ODM manufacturers bear primary responsibility for the authenticity of the products. The blogger did not dare to explicitly name the brands, but included small on-screen text in the video indicating that the laptops involved were from Chuwu or Ningqiu. And in the comments section, some users hinted there's only one company in the country that dares to do this. It can't make CPUs, but it can fake them. It has no technology, but it knows how to sell. Others referred to them as religious products. I never considered them. Some users directly pointed out that the Shenzhen-based ODM manufacturer involved is a close partner of Huawei, suggesting that Huawei could face significant losses as a result. The controversy was first sparked by the Chinese laptop brand Chuwi on e-commerce platforms. Chuwi has long been known for offering high specifications at low prices. One of its best-selling models, the CoreBook X, prominently advertised that it was equipped with an AMD Ryzen 5 743U processor. According to its specifications, this is a mobile chip from AMD's Ryzen 7000 series, theoretically capable of handling everyday office tasks, multitasking, and even light creative work. The product has been sold both domestically and overseas. However, many overseas users were among the first to complain on forums, saying that their newly purchased laptops were noticeably underperforming. Some reported that the system would lag after opening just a few web pages, while video editing was almost impossible. Even basic office tasks would occasionally experience delays. As doubts continued to grow, the issue finally drew the attention of tech media outlets. The well-known European tech review organization Notebook Check decided to investigate firsthand to determine exactly what was wrong with the device. Reviewers purchased a brand new CoreBook X and began conducting system-level testing. After powering on, everything appeared normal. The system interface clearly displayed the processor as a Ryzen 5 7430U. Within the Windows system, the device information was still identified as a 7430U. Even the professional diagnostic tool CPU-Z produced entirely consistent results. The turning point came after the device was disassembled. Once opened, the processor, previously identified in all tests as 7430U, was found to bear an OPN code 100-00000375, which functions like a processor's ID card. Verification through AMD's official website confirmed that this code actually corresponds to the Ryzen 5 5500U, a chip released in 2021. As part of a newer platform, the 7430U offers improvements in performance and platform support, whereas the 5500U belongs to an older generation that has been on the market for several years. For users, this difference directly translates into weaker multitasking capability, reduced graphics performance, and an overall decline in system smoothness. Faced with conclusive evidence, Chuwi did not directly acknowledge the issue. Instead, it attempted to downplay the controversy, offering vague explanations such as different production batches and uncontrolled inventory circulation. These responses, however, failed to quell the dispute. According to Notebook Check, Chuwi also repeatedly demanded that the outlet remove its repeated reports on the grounds of damaging brand reputation, and even issued threats of legal action. Rather than defusing the situation, this response drew even more attention. Observers began to question, if this were merely a simple inventory issue, why insist so forcibly on having the reports taken down? The company's pressure did not cause NotebookCheck to back down. Instead, it strengthened its resolve to continue investigating. After all, the incident had already raised widespread concerns about the authenticity of processors used in Chewy devices, prompting further scrutiny from the media. Subsequently, the team purchased a higher-end Chewy model, the CoreBook Plus, from an authorized retailer in Germany for a second round of testing and discovered the same fraudulent activity. The packaging label of this CoreBook Plus clearly states that it is equipped with a Ryzen 5 7430U, and the device itself also bears a Ryzen 7000 series sticker. However, once the machine was opened, the same familiar scenario unfolded. The processor's OPN code once again pointed to the same result. The Ryzen 5 5500U, just like the CoreBook X, the BIOS Windows system, and monitoring tools such as CPU-Z on this model had all been manually altered to display information indicating a Ryzen 5 7430U. To reveal the truth, the device had to be fully disassembled, removing screws, taking off the fan and CPU heatsink, and wiping away the thermal paste. Only then did the chip's OPN code become visible. Once again, showing this OPN code 01000375, confirming that the device was in fact equipped with the older Ryzen 5 5500U. For clarification, the correct OPN code for the Ryzen 5 7430U should be 10000001471. A comparison between the two makes the fraudulent swap obvious. Although both processors belong to the Ryzen 5 series and share some similar specifications, there are huge differences in performance. The Ryzen 5 743U is a newer model released in 2023 based on the Zen 3 architecture, featuring 16 megabytes of L3 cache and a maximum boost frequency of 4.3 GHz. In contrast, the Ryzen 5 5500U is an older 2021 model based on the Gen 2 architecture, with only 8 megabytes of L3 cache, a maximum boost frequency of 4 GHz, and a base frequency that is 200 MHz lower than the 7430U. Benchmark data shows that the performance gap between the older 5500U and the newer 7430U is at least 20%. The incident highlights a key issue, whether for ordinary consumers or those with some hardware knowledge. Relying solely on software-based testing can still be misleading. After all, software reading of CPU parameters can occasionally be inaccurate. To verify processor's authenticity with certainty, disassembling the laptop is ultimately required. More seriously, NotebookCheck confirmed through physical inspection that the CoreBook X and CoreBook Plus use completely different motherboards. This effectively rules out the possibility of a simple product batch error. Two different models with different motherboards cannot simultaneously exhibit the same CPU misconfiguration. Moreover, this type of falsification requires tampering with processor information at the firmware level, which involves extensive specialized technical operations. It cannot be explained as an accidental mistake and strongly indicates a deliberate planned system-level disguise. In addition, Chewy's use of fake Ryzen 7000 series labels on the device also indirectly impacts AMD. Consumers who see such labels typically assume the configuration is officially authorized by AMD, which could damage AMD's brand image. So, why does this happen? From a business perspective, the answer is not particularly complicated. Industry insiders note that if this laptop were truly equipped with a 7430U processor, along with 16 gigabytes of memory and a 512 gigabyte SSD, a price of $535 would not offer a clear advantage in the US market, where similarly configured products generally range between $450 and $550. However, by replacing the processor with the lower cost 5500U, the overall manufacturing cost can be significantly reduced. Under such circumstances, manufacturers can maintain the market claim of high specifications while achieving higher profit margins and continuing to attract price-sensitive consumers. Nonetheless, this incident has already crossed the bottom line of consumer trust. As attention continues to grow, another notebook brand has been exposed for suspected remark CPU practices, again using a Ryzen 5 5500U disguised as a Ryzen 5 7430U, with exactly the same method, suggesting the situation is more complex than initially thought. According to Notebook Check, last year they received a test sample of the Ninkir A15 Pro laptop from China, which was equipped with a Ryzen 5 7430U processor. However, in a recent market purchase of the same model, they discovered the same phenomenon as with the Chui. The BIOS and system reported a Ryzen 5 7430U, but after disassembly, the CPU's OPN code 10000000375 clearly indicated a Ryzen 5 5500U, pointing to suspected remark CPU manipulation. Further investigation by Notebook Check revealed that an increasing number of users have reported similar cases involving other Chinese notebook brands, all using identical methods. All remark products were traced back to the same ODM manufacturer, Shenzhen EDO Information Co., Ltd. ODM refers to a model in which the contractor handles product development, design, and manufacturing in full, while second and third tier notebook brands may even ship products directly to consumers through the ODM. At present, in addition to Chui and Ninkir, other brands that use ODM services from Shenzhen EDO Information Co., Ltd. have also been found to exhibit the same remark CPU practices. Based on currently available information, the large-scale falsification by this ODM most likely began in late 2025. The developer of CPU-Z pointed out that the method used by this ODM involves modifying the processor name string PNS by accessing AMD CPU MSR registers via the BIOS. Since Windows and most diagnostic tools read CPU information directly from the PNS, and because the specifications of the 5500U and 7430U are relatively similar, the falsification can easily go undetected. However, the CPU ID itself cannot be altered, so verifying the CPU ID can reveal the true identity of the processor. After the incident came to light, several Chinese notebook brands removed references to the Ryzen 5 7430U from retail platforms and official websites. Some product descriptions were modified, while others were taken off the market entirely. Analysts noted that it is difficult to imagine that the notebook brands were completely unaware of the situation and merely victims. However, the Shenzhen-based ODM's large-scale falsification clearly makes it the primary responsible party. As some online users pointed out, the company is an important partner of Huawei and has strong backing, which may explain its bold actions. Given Huawei's past record of controversies involving alleged falsification, such developments involving it and its partners may not be entirely surprising. In October last year, Bloomberg reported that the Canadian research firm Tech Insights issued a statement saying that after disassembling multiple samples of Huawei's Ascend 910C processor, they found components originating from TSMC, Samsung Electronics, and SK Hynix. Among them, Huawei's accelerator contained bare dies from TSMC, while two different versions of the Ascend 910C also included high bandwidth memory HBM2E from Samsung and SK Hynix. This suggests that despite China's continued promotion of semiconductor self-sufficiency, it still relies on foreign hardware. TSMC, Samsung, and SK Hynix quickly issued statements saying they had terminated all transactions with Huawei since mid-September 2020. In a statement, TSMC responded that the Huawei Ascend 910C hardware recently examined by Tech Insights appeared to use chips manufactured prior to October 2024, rather than newly produced or more advanced technology. It added that shipments and production of those chips had since ceased, and emphasized that it has consistently complied with all export regulations. Huawei did not respond to Bloomberg's request for comment. It remains unclear when and through what means these components were obtained. Analysts say the laptop industry scandal highlights the current predicament of China's manufacturing sector. High-end chip development and domestic production have failed to meet expectations, while import channels continue to be restricted. Related industries in China are facing growing anxiety. Recently, mainland outlet Sina Finance Headlines published an article stating that for a long time domestic smartphones have been branded as the pride of Chinese products, but in reality function as assembly products reliant on Qualcomm chips. Whenever Qualcomm releases a flagship chip, domestic brands rush to compete for the first launch, a practice described as lining up for rations, which is seen as ironic in light of the Chinese Communist Party's slogan of becoming a technological powerhouse. Although the Chinese Communist Party has expressed strong dissatisfaction with Qualcomm's high and rigid patent licensing fees, in the face of overwhelming technological advantages, it can only instruct companies to accept it reluctantly. This situation, rhetorically opposing the United States while pragmatically depending on it for survival, reflects what analysts describe as a fundamental weakness in China's basic research and core technology accumulation. What concerns Beijing even more is that the new energy vehicle sector, once regarded as a leapfrogging success story, still lacks a domestically controlled core brain. According to data from early 2026, Qualcomm holds a 72% market share in automotive cockpit chips in China. Huawei, heavily supported by the government as a national flagship, accounts for only 7.9%. Qualcomm's dominance in the automotive sector even surpasses its position in smartphones. The in-car entertainment systems, voice interaction, and large-screen experiences that China's new automotive companies take pride in are fundamentally powered by Qualcomm chips and the Android system. This suggests that even massive subsidies and administrative directives cannot cultivate genuine core innovation in a controlled environment. On April 9, multiple technology media outlets reported that US-based open-source software giant Red Hat would cease all engineering and R&D operations in China, affecting approximately 500 core R&D staff. According to an internal Red Hat email disclosed by tech outlet Cloud Headlines, the company is adjusting its global R&D layout, discontinuing engineering activities within China and relocating related work to other engineering centers in the Asia-Pacific region. Chris Wright, Senior Vice President of Global Engineering at Red Hat, confirmed the move in the internal communication. In response, Mr. Cheng, a researcher based in Nanjing, told reporters, "I'm not surprised by Red Hat's withdrawal. Microsoft's R&D department pulled out the year before last, and many tech companies and chip design firms had already exited in 2022 and 2023. If they don't leave, these companies constantly have to deal with China's anti-espionage law and face periodic questioning. In such a highly opaque regulatory environment, it's simply impossible to operate normally." The email outlined transition arguments for affected employees. Those impacted will no longer perform daily work duties effective immediately, but their employment will be maintained until July 31st, 2026, when it will formally end. During this period, Red Hat has committed to providing severance compensation and transition support, and will work with human resource partner LHH Lee Hecht Harrison to offer job placement services. Mr. Cheng said, "A layoff of this scale indicates that they no longer regard China as an innovation center. I've heard that some outstanding employees have already received offers to continue working abroad, and it is likely that many of these technical talents will choose to relocate overseas. A series of recent developments suggests that while the US government is intensifying its efforts against communist authoritarian systems, it has not relaxed its high-tech restrictions on China. A newly introduced bipartisan bill has further heightened concerns in Beijing. On April 4th, lawmakers from both parties in the U.S. House and Senate introduced new legislation aimed at strengthening coordination with allies and closing existing loopholes to prevent China from obtaining critical semiconductor manufacturing equipment, thereby maintaining U.S. technological advantages in key fields such as artificial intelligence. The legislation, titled the Multilateral Alignment of Technology Controls on Hardware Act, seeks to tighten export controls on advanced chip manufacturing equipment, which is considered a critical choke point in the global semiconductor industry. Lawmakers noted that although the United States has already implemented broad export controls to curb China's semiconductor self-sufficiency efforts, U.S. allies have not fully aligned with these measures. This lack of coordination has created significant loopholes that China continues to exploit. The bill aims to ensure that adversarial nations, including China, cannot obtain from the United States or its partners the critical chip manufacturing technologies that they are unable to produce independently. The key provisions of the bill include a nationwide ban on the export of critical equipment to countries of concern, covering advanced technologies such as deep ultraviolet DUV lithography. It also possesses comprehensive restrictions, similar to the Entity List, on major Chinese semiconductor companies, including SMIC, YMTC, Huawei, and other related entities, prohibiting the export of equipment, as well as the provision of maintenance and technical support. In addition, the bill establishes a timeline for coordination with allies, urging major equipment producing countries, such as the Netherlands and Japan, to adopt similarly strict restrictions to ensure the global effectiveness of the new rules. If allies fail to implement comparable measures within the specified timeframe, the United States would be authorized to impose even stricter controls unilaterally. The bill also expands the scope of the Foreign Direct Product Rule to bring more overseas products that incorporate U.S. technology under regulatory control. One of the bill's co-sponsors, Representative John Molinier of Michigan, chairman of the House Select Committee on Strategic Competition between the United States and the Chinese Communist Party, stated that semiconductor manufacturing equipment represents a key advantage for the United States in countering China's military and technological ambitions. He noted that China has been exploiting loopholes in existing export controls to acquire chip manufacturing equipment as part of its broader strategy to dominate the semiconductor industry. The United States, he said, urgently needs this bipartisan legislation to safeguard its leadership in chip manufacturing. Analysts believe that amid significant shifts in the international landscape this year, Beijing will face increasing pressure both economically and diplomatically. Many underlying domestic challenges are expected to surface more sharply in the near term. The issues exposed in China's laptop and electric vehicle sector regarding chip shortages may be only the beginning of broader challenges facing the world's manufacturing hub.